Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take that fire hose of information you see every day, all the articles, the research papers, the forecasts, and we try to distill it down into what you actually need to know.
And today we're tackling a big one.
A huge one. I mean, it's the single most anxiety-inducing and maybe the most misunderstood topic of the decade. Artificial intelligence and, well, what it really means for the global job map.
It's that headline fear, isn't it? You see it everywhere. The narrative is just relentless. AI is coming for all our jobs. That soundbite is almost always pure doom.
And it fuels this completely understandable global panic about job security, about the future.
Exactly. And every time a new large language model, an LLM, drops, or you see another one of those viral videos of an AI doing something only a human could do before,
The fear meter just spikes.
it goes through the roof. But we really have to move past that, that generalized anxiety.
We do.
Mm.
We've been given this incredible stack of sources for today's deep dive. And when you put all the data together, a much more complex, more nuanced, and honestly, a much more optimistic reality starts to emerge.
And that's our mission today. We want to unpack what we're calling the AI job map. We are going to pinpoint exactly which roles are disappearing, why they're disappearing, and maybe most importantly, the vast new fields of opportunity being created as we speak.
So we're giving you the coordinates, we're showing you where the landmines are, but also where the gold mines are hidden.
Precisely.
And to really set the stage for this, let's start with the big picture paradox, the 2025 global outlook. Because when you see these staggering numbers from the source material, they immediately force you to reframe the entire conversation.
To absolutely demand it. So the figure that dominates the news cycle, the one that grabs everyone's attention, is the projected loss.
Right.
Our source data projects that by 2025, AI is expected to threaten a staggering 85 million jobs globally.
85 million.
Yeah.
That's an enormous number.
It is. It represents entire swaths of the global workforce. We're talking about roles that will either be radically changed or, in some cases, just entirely eliminated.
85 million workers
Hmm.
facing that level of disruption. You can see why the fear is so pervasive.
Of course.
But this is the critical pivot point, the stat that turns the whole narrative on its head. What's the counter projection? What about job creation in that same period?
This is where it gets breathtaking. While those 85 million jobs might be threatened, AI is simultaneously projected to create 170 million new jobs.
Wait, say that again? 170 million?
170.
Yeah. So that's precisely double the number of jobs being threatened. This isn't just a one-for-one replacement scenario.
Not at all. This is a massive net increase in global employment opportunity. The core finding here, the absolute center of this AI job map, isn't widespread unemployment.
It's a shift.
It's the urgent need for a radical, fundamental shift in the type of work being done. We are looking at a net increase of 85 million jobs, but, and this is the key thing, only if the workforce adapts at the speed of the technology.
If you only read the headlines, you hear 85 million. The deep dive reveals 170 million.
That's the story.
And we don't even have to wait for the end of 2025 to see this playing out. The sources give us this immediate snapshot from the early part of this year, and it focuses on the tech sector.
Which is the industry most exposed, right? They're the ones building the tools, so they're at ground zero.
Exactly.
And this is where the data moves from, a projection to actual proof. In the first half of 2025, even in tech, we saw real displacement. Around 78,000 jobs disappeared because of AI implementation.
Okay, so what kinds of jobs were those?
Mostly roles like software quality assurance, some basic coding tasks, and a lot of technical support, the more repetitive stuff.
So a significant localized contraction. But what about the other side of the ledger? What about creation in that same 6 months?
Well, in that same short period, 119,900 new AI-related jobs emerged.
Wow.
And these are roles that, they didn't really exist in large numbers just a few years ago. Things like AI model trainers, machine learning specialists, data architects.
So even in the most exposed industry where the automation threat is highest, job creation outpaced job destruction by, what is that, over 40,000 positions?
It's about a 50% increase in creation over destruction right out of the gate.
That is incredible.
It really is. And it emphasizes that this transition isn't some hypothetical thing in the future. It is active, it's happening now, and the data suggests a clear net increase is already occurring. The jobs are changing faster than they are vanishing.
Which means the focus has to shift. It has to move from fear of being replaced to the urgency of upskilling.
That's the bottom line.
Okay, so let's unpack this map. Let's really analyze this transformation layer by layer. We need to identify exactly where that risk is concentrated and where the biggest opportunities are.
Let's do it.
All right, let's start with the difficult side of this equation, the automation blitz. When we talk about jobs disappearing, we have to get past that general fear and really focus on the why. What's the common thread here? What makes these specific roles prime targets?
At its core, it really just boils down to the nature of the task. AI and machine learning systems, they excel at processing predictable, repetitive, data-heavy tasks. It's what they're built for.
So if your job is basically following a set process over and over.
Exactly. Or handling high volumes of simple, standardized transactions, or classifying structured data, you're a prime target. AI offers unmatched speed, perfect consistency, and zero fatigue. For companies, the return on investment is just irresistible.
That makes perfect sense. And the most visible, immediate impact of this is happening right where we see it every day, in retail and service roles. I mean, the cashier has become the poster child for this whole shift.
The absolute poster child. And the numbers are, frankly, eye-popping. The source data shows a stunning rate of automation. 65% of cashier jobs globally are expected to be automated by the end of 2025.
65%. And this isn't some slow theoretical trend. This is happening right now with self-checkout kiosks, mobile pay.
It's an active displacement, and the sources didn't just give us a percentage, which can feel a bit abstract. They gave us concrete corporate examples.
Which really drives it home for people.
It does. It connects the abstract number to real-world decisions. Take Walmart. Their aggressive expansion of self-checkout has already led to the documented loss of 8,000 cashier jobs.
8,000.
And that's a decision made purely on operational efficiency and scale. Or look at Sam's Club, even more dramatic. Their AI inventory and checkout systems resulted in 12,000 lost cashier positions.
So these aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. They represent actual people whose jobs were disrupted because an algorithm became cheaper and faster.
Exactly. It shows that for these predictable tasks, the investment in automation has an almost immediate and very significant ROI. And that guarantees companies will keep pushing it.
Okay, so moving past retail, this automation is also extending deep into the white-collar world, specifically what the sources call the legal and healthcare administrative cleanup.
Yes, and this is where the data shows that some jobs are, for all intents and purposes, already extinct.
Like what?
Well, look at medical records transcription. The data uses this as a benchmark for completed automation. The source says it is already 99% automated.
99%. So that's not a job at risk of disappearing. That job has, it's essentially vanished.
It's gone, replaced entirely by AI voice processing, automated documentation, NLP that translates a doctor's notes directly into a standardized record.
And that just shows the sheer speed at which a predictable, high-volume task can be completely absorbed once the technology matures.
It's a really profound and sobering reminder of the velocity we're dealing with. Now, apply that same logic, that same efficiency metric to the legal field. Legal assistants are facing a similarly high risk.
What's the number there?
An 80% automation risk by 2026.
80%. That's a massive sudden vulnerability for what many people see as a pretty skilled support role. So what specific functions make them so vulnerable so quickly?
It's largely about document review and e-discovery. In big litigation or corporate compliance cases, you have to review thousands, sometimes millions, of documents. You're looking for relevance, specific keywords.
The kind of thing a human would get tired doing.
Exactly. And an AI is infinitely faster, more consistent, and more accurate at it than any human team. Platforms are already using machine learning to triage and categorize evidence, which makes the human legal assistant obsolete for that initial bulky part of the work.
So the human's role shifts. It moves up the value chain to interpreting the findings, developing strategy, talking to clients.
The human becomes the editor and the strategist, not the processor. And we see a similar thing happening in healthcare administration with medical coding.
Right. The data said a 40% automation rate by the end of 2025.
Yeah, medical coding is all about translating services and diagnoses into standardized codes, like ICD-10 codes for billing. It's a structured, rule-based task.
Perfect for an AI.
Perfect for an AI. As these systems integrate directly with electronic health records, that human middleman just becomes less necessary. 40% is a significant cut into the administrative backbone of healthcare.
Okay, let's look at two more huge sectors, finance and manufacturing. Starting with banking, The scale of displacement in just basic tasks is, again, truly eye-opening.
It is. When we talk about basic banking-like processing simple loans, opening standard accounts, Route 10 fraud monitoring, 70% of those functions are expected to be automated by 2025.
70%.
And that's driven purely by the immense pressure on banks to cut overhead and maximize efficiency.
And it's not just the entry-level positions, right? The impact goes deeper.
Absolutely not. The source is clear. 54% of all bank jobs are classified as high risk. This tells you that automation is hitting roles that traditionally required a lot of education risk analysis, compliance monitoring, back office trading support,
Things based on processing large data sets.
and executing rule-based models. The jobs being preserved are the high-touch client relationship roles and the really creative quantitative roles, the people who build the algorithms in the first place.
So if banking is restructuring from the ground up, what about large-scale industrial employment? What about manufacturing?
Well, manufacturing has been automating for decades with robotics, but AI is accelerating that shift dramatically. We're not talking about a slow erosion anymore. The source projects 2 million manufacturing jobs will be lost by 2025.
2 million jobs
Yeah.
in just one sector in such a short time frame. And this is a crucial point, isn't it? Even if AI is creating more jobs globally, the pain of displacement is concentrated. It's immediate and localized.
That is the critical takeaway from the automation blitz. The pain is concentrated in specific, predictable sectors, and that concentration is what fuels the popular anxiety, even when the net numbers are positive.
Which leads us to the crucial counter question. And who's going to fill them? Okay, so we've charted the areas of decline. Now let's pivot. Let's talk about the growth engine, what's driving the next decade. This is where it gets really transformative. We're shifting to the emerging landscape.
The growth rates here are, they're unprecedented. It really indicates a gold rush mentality among companies. The entire AI-related job market is expected to see a compound annual growth rate, a KGR of 38% between 2024 and 2030.
Okay, for anyone listening who doesn't deal with financial metrics every day, can you break that down? What does a 38% CAGR over 6 years actually mean?
Sure. It's the average annual growth rate over that period. A KGR of 38% is, in economic terms, astonishingly high. It means the market for these jobs isn't just growing, it's accelerating exponentially. It's compounding year after year.
So it signals this immense sustained demand that is just far outstripping the current supply of talent.
It's a tidal wave of opportunity.
So let's look at the specific roles driving this. We have to start with the foundational one, the AML engineer.
This is the engine room. This is the core technical role. It's identified as the single most rapidly growing job category in 2025. Their job is to build the underlying models, develop the algorithms, train the data sets, and make sure these systems work effectively and ethically.
They're the architects of this new economy.
They are. But it's not just about building the engine anymore. It's about learning how to talk to it, how to guide it. And that brings us to a role that barely even had a formal title a few years ago. The prompt engineer.
The prompt engineer. This is such a fascinating new field.
It's the clearest example of a totally new profession created by the needs of generative AI. Their job, essentially, is to become a specialist in talking to AI effectively.
Explain that for us. Why do we need a high-paid specialist just to ask a question to a machine that, speaks English?
Because the quality of the AI's output is directly proportional to the quality of the human's input, the prompt. A prompt engineer has this deep, almost intuitive understanding of how these models think. They know how to structure instructions to get the most precise, creative, and relevant results.
And avoid the pitfalls like AI hallucinations.
And avoid the hallucinations. A normal person might ask, write a marketing plan for my software, and you'll get something very generic.
Right.
A prompt engineer would say something like, act as a B2B marketing VP. Your target is CTOs at mid-sized manufacturing firms. Develop a 3-phase launch strategy using LinkedIn and industry journals, focusing on the ROI of predictive maintenance. Deliver the response in a structured YAML format.
So you're not just asking a question, you're giving the AI a role, a target, a format, constraints.
And that dramatically improves the output quality and saves the company countless hours of human editing. It's a new kind of specialization linking language, logic, and domain expertise.
That's fascinating. And beyond building and talking to the AI, that human feedback loop is still critical, which is where the AI trainer comes in.
Right. The AI trainer is there to refine, supervise, and correct the models after they're deployed. When an AI generates an output, a human trainer evaluates it for accuracy, relevance, safety, bias.
They're checking its homework.
They are literally checking its homework to make sure it learns from its mistakes. And this is critical, especially in sensitive areas.
And as AI gets integrated into really high-stakes decisions, like in finance or medicine, we absolutely need that human oversight, which leads to the AI ethics specialist.
This role is growing so fast because the stakes are so high. This person's job is to manage AI bias, fairness, impartiality.
Because the models are only as good as the data they're trained on.
Exactly. If the training data reflects historical human biases, say in mortgage lending, the AI will learn and even amplify those biases. The AI ethics specialist is there to audit the model, stress test it, and try to mitigate the risks of algorithmic discrimination.
So it's basically a corporate insurance policy against a PR disaster or a massive fine.
It's a vital one, yes. And while all of this is happening, the infrastructure needed to run it all is creating another boom. We're seeing continued strong growth for cybersecurity professionals.
Because every new AI system is a new potential vulnerability.
A huge, attractive attack surface for bad actors. You have more data being centralized, more complex systems. AI can be used to defend systems, but it can also be used to launch incredibly sophisticated phishing attacks. So cybersecurity is projected to grow 32% between 2022 and 2032.
Okay, now this next part is maybe the most surprising bit of the growth section, because it proves this AI economy isn't just abstract code, it's built on brick and mortar. Let's talk about the construction boom.
That's right. When people think of the AI economy, they think of code and cloud services. But to handle the sheer computational demand of these massive AI models, you have to build enormous, power-hungry physical buildings, data centers.
And the data quantifies this impact. Over 110,000 construction jobs were created in 2024 alone just to build these things.
It's a massive and frankly unexpected stimulus to non-technical jobs. We're talking carpenters, electricians, structural engineers, HVAC specialists, highly skilled trades. The demand is unprecedented.
And the economic impact doesn't stop when the building is finished. There's a multiplier effect.
Yes, this is fascinating. The analysts highlight a specific ratio. For every one internal data center job, that's IT staff, security, maintenance, it creates 3.5 additional related jobs in the local region.
3.5. Why so high? What are those external jobs?
Well, these centers are massive hubs of specialized demand. They need dedicated security patrols, logistics for replacing hardware, complex maintenance for the power grids and cooling systems, often from third-party contractors. They need local administrative services.
So it shows that job creation is spreading far beyond the traditional tech hubs. It's injecting economic life into areas that might be more rural or affordable.
Exactly. It's creating jobs for people who may never write a single line of Python code in their life. It's a phenomenal insight into how the physical needs of the AI economy are actually diversifying job growth. #3, industry-specific adoption and implications.
Okay, so we've established the jobs that are vanishing and the new ones that are emerging. Now let's connect those individual shifts back to the bigger picture.
Right.
The industry adoption rates, and really the financial incentives driving all this change. Why is this happening so fast?
It's simple, really. Businesses are adopting AI at this incredible pace because the ROI is just too high to ignore. They're seeing efficiency and revenue gains that radically change their competitive position. We mentioned earlier that large tech companies are averaging a $6.5 million investment in AI.
And that spending is accelerating the timeline for everyone else.
It absolutely is. Let's start with manufacturing. We noted they're slated to lose 2 million jobs by 2025 and maybe 20 million by 2030. What's driving that?
A huge adoption rate.
Extremely high, 77% industry AI adoption, and that's growing 7% year over year. They're not just using dumb robots anymore. They're integrating AI for things like quality control, using visual recognition to spot defects faster than a human eye ever could.
And predictive maintenance.
Right, where AI analyzes machine data to predict when equipment will fail before it happens. That optimizes factory uptime enormously. The long-term implication with that 20 million job replacement figure is just staggering. It reinforces the urgent, absolute need for reskilling in that sector.
The human role has to shift entirely.
Completely. Manufacturing isn't going away. The process is just becoming hyper-automated. Human roles are shifting from assembly line work to oversight, to maintaining complex human-machine interfaces and analyzing the data. For a displaced factory worker, the required skills move from manual dexterity to digital literacy.
Okay, now what about financial services? Their adoption rate is also incredibly high, 73%. But here the key driver seems to be the clear financial benefit.
The financial incentive is crystal clear, and it's overwhelming. AI is expected to increase revenue in the financial sector by more than 20%.
More than 20%.
Think about what that means. Faster, more accurate risk modeling. Instantaneous, customized fraud detection that cuts losses. The ability to process loan applications at scale with zero human downtime. When you can boost revenue by that much just by automating your back office, it's no longer an option for major
And
banks.
that huge ROI is the force behind that earlier figure we discussed, that 70% of basic banking tasks will be automated.
It's a purely economic decision, and it creates this self-reinforcing cycle. Automation cuts costs, increases speed, reduces error, and boosts revenue. The first bank to do it gains a massive competitive edge, which forces all its competitors to follow suit.
Which leads to that widespread displacement. Now, when we get to healthcare, the story's a little different. Efficiency is a factor, of course, but the main driver seems to be about transformation, about better outcomes.
Right. Here we're looking at the pure growth rate of AI integration, and it's a stunning 36.8% compound annual growth rate for AI in healthcare. That rate suggests continuous, rapid, high-level investment across a lot of different applications.
So what are those specialized areas where AI is really changing the game for doctors and nurses, not just for the back office?
We're seeing explosive growth in AI diagnosis, in advanced surgical assistance, and in creating personalized treatment plans. In diagnosis, for example, an AI can analyze thousands of medical images, CT scans, MRIs at incredible speed. It can spot microtumors that a tired human radiologist might miss at the end of a long shift.
So it's not replacing the doctor, it's augmenting them. It's like a powerful co-pilot.
Precisely. In surgery, AI-guided robotics can manage the tiny movements of a surgical tool with a level of precision that's just impossible for a human hand alone. The AI manages the data and the precision, but the surgeon retains the judgment, the dexterity, the complex decision-making.
So the job changes, it becomes augmented,
Mhm.
but the core human expertise and empathy remain essential.
Which suggests we'll see fewer direct displacements here than in more data-heavy sectors.
And finally, let's look at the tech sector itself. The early adopters, they're the bellwether for what every other industry is going to experience soon.
They have the highest adoption rate, as you'd expect, over 87%. They develop the tools and they immediately integrate them into their own operations.
And their investment scale is what's fueling this whole revolution. That average of $6.5 million in dedicated AI investment.
That level of spending tells you this isn't a side project. It is the central strategic pillar for the coming decade. And that massive investment is what fuels the rapid creation of all those new roles we discussed. The AI engineers, the prompt engineers, the infrastructure growth. The speed of that corporate spending determines the speed of displacement for everyone else.
We've now painted this map of disappearance and creation, but we haven't really touched on the human reality of this shift. We need to acknowledge the anxiety, the displacement, and the adaptation required to navigate this map successfully.
The anxiety caused by this rapid transition it's a very real, very measurable phenomenon. And the sources reveal what you could call a fascinating but also concerning anxiety paradox.
Okay, so who is feeling the heat the most? Who is the most worried about AI taking their job?
The demographic that is by far the most worried is the youngest group, 18 to 24-year-olds. They worry 129% more about job loss due to AI than people over 65.
129% more. That's a staggering disparity. But let's talk about the irony there, because that 18 to 24 demographic is, generally speaking, the most digitally native, the most flexible. They should be the best equipped to handle this. So why is their insecurity so high?
There are a few reasons, and the data actually validates their fear, even if the long-term outlook is positive. First, while they might be digitally native, they're entering a job market that is being radically restructured right under their feet.
They don't have decades of experience or networks to fall back on.
Exactly. They don't have that institutional safety buffer that older workers have. And second, they're often filling the exact roles that are easiest to automate first, especially in the tech sector.
The entry-level jobs.
Precisely. They're the ones being hit by these initial sharp displacement waves. Roles like entry-level QA testing, basic technical writing, content moderation, jobs that were the first rung on the career ladder. They are feeling the tangible unemployment impact right now.
And let's talk about that specific unemployment data. The source provides a clear metric from 2025 that really backs up this fear.
It does. It shows that the unemployment rate for people in their 20s and 30s in the tech sector rose by 3 percentage points in just the first half of 2025.
A 3-point spike is significant and immediate, and that validates their anxiety, doesn't it? Even if the overall net job number is positive, they are the ones feeling the sharp, immediate pain of those traditional entry-level tech roles disappearing.
Yes. They are experiencing the disruption before the new jobs created by all that investment have fully filtered down to their level. The creation of 170 million jobs takes time, it requires new training, the efficiency cuts, the 85 million displacements are immediate.
They are feeling that transition gap disproportionately.
They are.
So given that localized pain, what does the broader economic consensus say about how long this disruption will last? We have a prediction from Goldman Sachs here.
Right. The economists' view from Goldman Sachs forecasts that unemployment will only rise temporarily and by a very marginal amount, about half a percentage point.
0.5%. That is a profoundly reassuring piece of data. I mean, if you're replacing 85 million jobs and creating 170 million, you would normally expect a deep, prolonged recessionary spike in unemployment.
You would.
The fact that the consensus model sees only a small temporary increase suggests the economy's ability to absorb these workers, provided they adapt, is much faster than people fear.
It implies the disruption is sharp, but short-lived, because the demand for these new AI-enabled roles is just so immense. The market adjusts rapidly to capitalize on the new efficiency.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening to this? The key insight from the source material isn't about if change is happening, but about the speed of that change and the need for reskilling.
Yes, the source emphasizes a critical distinction. Historically, technological change happened over decades. Think of the slow rollout of electricity. But today, the gap between those who adapt and those who don't is widening rapidly. That velocity is the crisis.
That knowledge gap is accelerating because of that multi-million-dollar corporate investment we keep talking about. If you're a legal assistant facing an 80% risk, the time you have to acquire new skills is measured in months, maybe a year or two at most, not some gentle 5-year educational timeline.
That is the core conclusion. The source is very clear. Learning AI skills now is the best insurance against job loss. The jobs that are vanishing require predictable, backward-looking skills. The jobs that are emerging require dynamic skills, the ability to interact with, supervise, and architect AI systems.
Speed of adaptation is not just a benefit anymore. It's the key factor for success in this new map.
And this isn't just about learning to use one piece of software. It's about learning prompt engineering for productivity, data visualization for strategy, ethical oversight for compliance. It's about learning how to collaborate with a machine.
It's about becoming an AI-augmented professional.
It's about moving up the value chain. Let the AI handle the data processing and repetition. That frees up the human to focus on strategy, empathy, creativity, nuanced judgment, all the things AI still fundamentally struggles with, but you have to learn the language of the machine to harness that freedom.
Okay, let's bring this deep dive to a close. Let's synthesize the key takeaways that define this AI job map.
First, and most important, we have to move past the universal fear of job destruction. AI is a massive job creator, 170 million new roles globally by 2025. It demands new skills, yes, but it results in massive net growth.
Second, the danger of displacement is real, but it's specific. It's concentrated in those repetitive high-volume roles: cashiers, medical transcriptionists, legal assistants, basic banking tasks. Predictability is the enemy of job security.
Third, the growth is explosive, a 38% EGR. The gold mines are in specialized roles like AML engineering, prompt engineering, AI ethics, and surprisingly, in the physical construction and maintenance of data centers, where every one tech job creates 3.5 other local jobs.
And finally, the adaptation message. The anxiety is real, especially for the young, but the economic forecast suggests the overall disruption to unemployment will be temporary and marginal. The focus has to shift immediately from fearing automation to seizing that 38% growth opportunity through rapid reskilling.
You have to operate at the speed of the technology, or you risk falling into that widening skill gap.
And that brings us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener. Something to think about on your own that builds on this urgent dynamic we've just covered.
Since speed of adaptation is so clearly the deciding factor, consider this. We saw that large tech companies are averaging a $6.5 million investment in AI. That isn't just a budget line item. That is an acceleration pedal pushed all the way to the floor.
So if companies are spending millions to accelerate their automation timelines, What does that incredible speed of investment mean for your personal timeline? The timeline you have to acquire the new skills needed to stay ahead.
How rapidly is that corporate spending accelerating the widening gap we just talked about? Does the sheer speed of that investment mean you have even less time to adjust than you perhaps realize, forcing an immediate reevaluation of your own skill set?
That's the critical question for survival and for success on the AI job map.
A question that demands a quick, decisive answer.
Thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We hope this map helps you navigate what's ahead.